What's up, world? We back. This is another Cerrone Games video, and in this video, pretty much gonna be talking about something tragic that had happened back in January of 1993, and in a way, it marks a very well-known history in comics in general. And at the time, I was still in junior high school, and this event in comics swept the nation. No one could believe that the most powerful superhero in modern comics was gonna die on this day, and everybody was anticipating it. We've heard about it, heard rumors about they may end up doing that, but this was around the time in 1993. You gotta remember the Lois and Clark TV series was running. And what was supposed to happen was Lois Lane was going to marry Superman on live television. It was a show that they had out. I think it was well received by certain critics. I never really gave it any matter to watch it at the time, but that didn't happen. And what ended up happening was they killed off Superman. And they killed him off in the comics. And what was so shocking about it is that not only did I expect it, but I think neither of my classmates at the time, we were all teenagers, never expected for them to write a comic book at this magnitude, at the height of comics. In 1993, you still had certain superhero cartoons on television and everything, but when it happened, it was like a wave of disbelief. They even put it in newspapers. I actually have an article from the Daily News of them having a obituary of Superman and at the same time having a funeral for Superman in real life. It was the craziest thing. But in a church, and they had his picture up there of Superman. This was a big deal. Okay, if you weren't around in 1993 and you could have been around, but you probably wasn't aware. You were too young. This thing was huge. And every comic book that came after that was so highly sought after, it was ridiculous. It came in black packaging, and it had the bloody symbol of Superman's S. And I remember at the time, because a friend of mine who was really into comics, more than I was at the time, was heavily getting those comics. They were selling out so fast. You had collectors buying up all the damn copies. It was crazy. And there was barely any when I got it there to actually read anything. So I had to rely on my friend to read up to date of what was happening in the story of Superman. Now, in the comics, everyone knew that Superman was fighting this big Doomsday guy. And no one knew who Doomsday was, where did he come from. There was so much mystery behind this new character called Doomsday. But Superman was getting, he's getting his ass whooped. He was getting beat up, okay? I remember reading the comics, and then what followed after that was even, to me, more important to the entire superhero franchise as far as Superman is concerned. Now, Superman fought this guy. Doomsday beat up the entire Justice League. There was a clone of Supergirl rolling around. He just punched her in the face. Some face just melted. It was crazy. And then he finally meets up with Superman. And when he fights Superman, Superman is having dialogue while fighting this guy, saying to himself, like, this dude is powerful. Like, what the heck? Like, he couldn't even believe the punches that he was throwing. This guy was not moving. And he was trying to save the city. He was trying to save the people, at the same time fight this threat that was on Earth. And what was so cool about it is when you see the introduction of Doomsday, he's in this space suit. He's all green. He's got these tubes around him. He breaks out of this so-called cell that he was in, this capsule he was in. And he see birds, and he just crushes the bird's hand. It was like, okay, what is this thing? When you're reading the comics at that age, and I was 13 at the time, you got to sit there and you're saying, what is this thing that's doing this? I mean, he had no remorse. He really didn't say anything. He was just there to kick ass. All right. So, being a young lad as I was reading that comic, I was like, wow, this is really a big deal. But, you know, the effect of him dying, you had to read the comic to see how it happened. And I didn't have the comic at the time. I just heard he died. And I was like, okay, I got to see this. What threat could have stopped Superman? Was it a villain that I've seen before? Was it Lex Luthor's minions? You know, what was it? And long and behold, it was a new villain called Doomsday. Now, when Doomsday appeared, he was massive. I mean, you know, like I said, he swept the streets of Superman, beat up every other hero that could have tried to take him down. Couldn't take him down. But the final blow was Superman and Doomsday punching each other at the same exact time. And everybody thought, well, is he still alive? What's going on? And meanwhile, Lois Lane is over there crying because, you know, Superman had died right there in the streets. And it was a big deal. Like I said, this thing swept over comics in general, and it almost destroyed the comic book industry. To have a superhero this powerful, that everyone knew, since the 60s, die by a threat called Doomsday was a big deal for a lot of comic book fans. I mean, this thing transited from kids all the way up to adults who followed comics. So you got to understand how big and how important this particular story was. Now, truth be told, what followed after the death of Superman came 4 uniquely different Supermen. There was a Superboy, there was a cyborg Superman, there was another Superman with shades called the Eradicator, and then there was the black African-American Superman called Steel. Now, Shaq made a movie called Steel. At the same time, there were comic books dedicated to Superboy. At the same time, we had video games. 2 particular systems that harnessed this video game was the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis. And those games were awesome. I played them again and again and again and again when I had a chance to, because I liked the music was awesome. The graphics was awesome at the time. It was just standard 2D side-scrolling beat-em up. Something like Spider-Man or your X-Men, the 6-player one in the arcade. It was similar to that nature, and it was fun. This was truly an event in 1993, as far as video games, as far as comic books, and retailers' action figures. But today, aside from that, I want to talk about these 2 action figures. DC Collectibles, the DC Icon series, did release this 2-box set of The Death of Superman. Comes with a nice, cool layout. Comes with many accessories of diorama. Also has captions that says Kapow or Slam. It has the flag, as you can see here. It has 2 different faces of Superman. One, he's dead. The other one, he's enraged. It also comes with a optic blast that he shoots from his eyes attachment. And it comes with several little rubble pieces to show the diorama a little bit more effects by letting you see like little rubble debris all around scattered about. So it's a pretty cool 2-pack. I like this 2-pack. When I saw the 2-pack at this year's Toy Fair, I knew I had to get this set. This set costs about $60 to $70. I had to purchase it because I'm a fan of this particular story of Superman. I know they released several other movies, like your Batman v Superman, which, I mean, it was an okay movie, but it's not The Death of Superman. I also remember Nicolas Cage was supposed to play a part in Superman around the time of Superman's death. They had the suit and everything ready. Then something happened with Warner Bros. It got funky and they canned that entire project. Then came another movie tie-in that was pretty much an animated series. It was the Doomsday animated DVD, straight to DVD release. That wasn't Doomsday. Okay? That wasn't really the story of Doomsday to me. I mean, they had this generic Superman that was controlled by Lex Luthor. He was a robot, but he really wasn't Superman. It was loosely based around the death of Superman, but that's not the Superman comic that people, fans of Superman, know. Now, as far as video games is concerned, Rocksteady, who also works with Warner Brothers, has been releasing some very good games as far as the Batman series, the Arkham series. And there have been rumors of them, their next big title since they finished the Arkham Batman series, is to create a Superman series. And I hope that they make the Superman game. I really do hope that Rocksteady does give us a solid Superman game. I'm not talking Nintendo 64 Superman was terrible. Superman Returns for the Xbox 360 was slightly alright. I still play that from time to time because I think the fans of gamers truly want a official Superman game. And if it's made by Rocksteady, I think it'll just be 10 times better. Along with that, the team that makes Mortal Kombat has given us Injustice. And with Injustice, the first one, they did give us that epic fight of having the ability to pick Superman and Doomsday and fight it out and battle it out in the city, which was awesome to me. So I hope that Rocksteady looks at that and sees that, hey, let's give them a true Superman game. I would really, really appreciate that. I think fans would really, really appreciate that. As far as the Death of Superman movie, there have been talks. This is not a rumor. This is actually going to happen. That Warner Brothers are going to release in 2018. I think 2018 is the year of Superman. I truly believe it. This year we are going to finally get, on January 1st, we are getting, and I'm saying this on January 1st, 2018, we are finally getting a 2-part series of the Death of Superman. The way it was intended to be shown to the fans. And I'm pretty sure they're going to include the 4th Superman, because the 4th Superman that came after Superman Death and Return was a good story. I have the omnibus of it. I have the entire series, and I had to purchase it because I just fell in love with the entire concept of the Death of Superman and the Return of Superman. And a lot of people don't know this, but Superman, in a way, really didn't die. You could go on YouTube, you can go to comic book forums and everything, and people will say that, oh yeah, Superman died. Superman really didn't die by Doomsday. And I want to make this clear. In the comic book, in the original run comic book, Superman runs into his dead stepfather, and his stepfather tells him that you are not human. You are not from Earth. You have seen death and you have accepted a human death. So Superman, you really can't die. And that's what brought Superman back to life. Even if you look in the movie, the Batman vs. Superman, you see the rocks rising off his coffin. He accepted death. That means he was really dead. But that's just another story for another time. You can do your research on that. You can actually pick up the comic book. I'm pretty sure they split the omnibus up now, so you can buy it in sections. But if you look at that scene with the dialogue between Superman and his father, you'll see exactly what I just told you. But I appreciate if you took the time out to listen to this video. I did pick up this set because I'm a fan of Superman, and this was a historic moment in comic book history, DC Comics history in general. If you like what you saw, if you like what you listened to, rate, comment, and subscribe, and I will be posting up more videos of video games or action figures that I acquire. But as far as going into the new year of 2018, this is my first purchase of 2018 that recently came to me. Peace.